Hello and welcome to Preview Percy's preview for the hard of thinking or people who can't be bothered to read. So, we have a midweek game. It's Liverpool. And it looks like this may finally be the year when all that assistance they get from referees may finally bear fruit. They're top, obviously, having won just about every match going, but it's not been without assistance from the men in the middle. And I'm not talking about those major game-changing decisions, though they've always had more than their fair share of those over the years. Now, I'm talking about those small little things that gently nudge a game in their direction. The sort of decisions that don't hit the headlines, but nevertheless will have more of an influence over the direction of the Premier League trophy than 1,000,001 VAR decisions. Now, I'm not a fan of basketball per se. However, one idea that football could have a look at is the concept of the team foul. In basketball, when a team commits a certain number of fouls, their opponents get a free throw. Basketball's equivalent of a penalty kick. Now, I'm not saying that after, say, the third tactical foul on the football pitch, there ought to be a penalty kick. However, if the perpetrator of said foul got an automatic yellow card, and then, say, the perpetrator of the fifth such foul got a red, maybe that would curb the tactic that our visitors have gotten down to a fine, if somewhat dark art. Or alternatively, they could just try punishing the snidey little triple nudge designed to disrupt play with a yellow card, which is pretty much what the laws of the game in their current state say anyway. Rather amusingly, the embarrassingly Liverpool-centric BBC football website gleefully decided to take a look at Manchester City when their similar tactics were panned at our place at the start of the season. They analysed the sort of foul that we are talking about, only to discover that, statistically anyway, Man City were mere amateurs compared with Liverpool. They did, to their credit, publish the review. Somewhere near the bottom of the website next to the link to the Irish League Division 2B results. Daisy, the full-time personal assistant, with a beautiful smile, informs me that their most significant signing of the season was none other than a certain Adrian de San Miguel de Castilla. He's obviously a bit of a cult hero round our way, not least for his chucking of his gloves on the floor as he scored the winning spot kick in a shootout against Everton that time a few years back. He was never going to get past a fit Fabianski at our place. Oh, the irony. And he therefore elected to join Liverpool's Cup squad when his contract was up. The short chap who pops around here to pick up my copy every week often reminisces about the time Adrian won the KUMB.com Best New Signing Award a few years ago. The short one and the boss turned up and were wandering around the bowling, videoing nice little acceptance speeches from the various award winners, and it was all pretty standard PR stuff. You know, the sort of thing. This award is special because it comes from the fans, etc, etc. Till they got to Adrian, who could barely contain himself with joy once his interpreter had explained it all to him. The short one still has some form of injury from the 5 minutes of constant handshaking that came his way. Process that was only disengaged with once Adrian picked up his phone to call his missus to give her the good news. Adrian had previously that day bought crates of San Miguel lager for the press to celebrate the previous week's win against Spurs. Indeed, the short one tells me he still has one of the cans which Adrian kindly signed for him. Up at Liverpool, he got a few games in the league earlier on in this season thanks to Alisson's injury on the opening day, so few will begrudge him the league winners medal that he will probably get when it comes his way. More recently, they brought in Japanese international Takini Takini. Let's just call him Takini. The £7.25 million fee paid to Salzburg is, relatively speaking, peanuts. No doubt it will be recouped quite easily with sales of their new kit, which will have a new manufacturer next season after they wriggled out of their deal with no balance. On the injury front, this week they'll be without Mane, Milner and Klein, whilst Lallana has nearly recovered from some unspecified illness, knowing them probably the bends. He stands a good chance of being involved somewhere along the line, possibly on the bench. Let's move on and have a quick chat about the wild and wacky world of association football then. It will have come to a major shock to those used to our national press operating in the manner of some GSB-sanctioned Pravda that our owners have suddenly been coming in for some stick. Reporters from the Telegraph, Mail and The Guardian on the Sky Sunday supplement programme in particular were somewhat scathing. A shambles was one of the politer comments as the mainstream press finally cottoned on to what we've been saying around here for about 10 years. Maybe it's all a reaction to that fawning interview on TalkSport the other week, but a light bulb seems to have gone on in whatever we're supposed to call Fleet Street these days. One looks forward to the Mail, Telegraph, Guardian having their press access withdrawn to unnecessarily negative coverage, though they'll find the bullying tactics against Fleet Street, or whatever it's supposed to be called, even more counterproductive than they were against supporters' websites. One statistic that the journos might like to consider is David Gold's comment of a few years back in which he said that If 85% of supporters wanted them to sell up, they would go. One can only presume that they're just waiting for that figure to fall down to that level. In similar vein, Joe Cole probably did fatal damage to his chances of being employed by the current regime with his own criticisms, though frankly he's probably better off out of it all as things stand. At the time of writing, which means there's still time for somebody to mess things up, we're on the verge of signing Czech midfielder Thomas Souček for a fee being about 13 million quid, give or take a few corona here or there. Moyes described the player as fitting the profile of the player I want, which could be read as meaning that the player Moyes actually wants is somebody completely different. Still, he's relatively cheap and is presumably enthralled at the prospect of working in a Portakabin every day. Quick note to the head of intellectual property at Portakabin: yes, we do know it's a trademark. You wrote to us before. Isn't there something more useful you could be doing instead? Let's move on to last week then. I missed the first couple of minutes. I checked in midweek to see if a paper ticket was required, as none had turned up. I was told that my season ticket card would be more than sufficient to gain access. That was, of course, like much of what comes out of our club, rubbish. I had to walk halfway around the bloody place to pick up the paper ticket they ought to have sent me in the first place. Frankly, I needn't have bothered. That first 45 minutes is as bad as any I've seen in my years of watching us, and I go back a long, long way. There were players out there who, if they do want to be at the club, they're doing a bloody good job of hiding it. Sanchez in particular was as much of a spectator as I was. They ought to have charged him for a ticket and sent him halfway to Stratford to pick the damn thing up. He'd have had about as much effect. What on earth has happened to Balbuena? His passing was so bad that ironic cheers broke out on each occasion that he found a teammate, which by my count was about twice. I hesitate to say things got better in the second half, but the 3 substitutions made things slightly less worse, I suppose. And we did have chances to get a draw that we wouldn't have even begun to deserve. But it was telling that even with a man advantage in the last 15 minutes, nothing changed. Clueless just about sums it up. Sorry, I don't think there are words adequate enough to describe just how dreadful that performance really was. For this match, there is a chance that Fabianski will be back. He has been training and they'll make a decision on the day. Yarmolenko, Anderson, Fredericks and, of course, Wilshere are all out, and there are doubts over Snodgrass and Masuaku, who both have knee problems. Well, prediction: if the ref is really friendly to us, we might just get away with a cricket score, an England one rather than the South African one. If not, we may be relying on a half-time declaration. That biggest screen in Europe might need an extension. I'll therefore be placing the £2.50 that would have gone on the world's smallest violin to accompany Klopp's constant whining that the FA aren't doing enough to help them win trophies, which is clearly PGMOL's job anyway, and I'm going to place it on a 4-1 win to them. Enjoy the game if you can, and remember, for more information and the legendary Preview Percy poser, go to the website. If you can't read, have someone read it to you. Ta-ra.